Hey everyone, Kevin here with Victory 4x4. Today in the garage we're going to be installing a set of our strike sliders here on our 4th generation Toyota 4Runner. So as you get started, the amount of disassembly you're going to have to do is going to vary quite a bit depending on your specific vehicle, whether or not it has factory steps, whether or not it has current aftermarket accessories, as these are a few years old at this point. Ours, you can see, obviously doesn't have any steps in place from the factory any longer. Those are typically just held in place with a few bolts underneath that are either a 12 or 13 millimeter bolt head and can be easily removed. Once you have those out of the way, your new slider assembly, or at least the main portion of it, is going to be one main piece that has the front and rear mounting brackets already attached. It's going to install into the frame using a few of the factory threaded holes to kind of locate it, and then we're going to have some that you will drill and install 3/8 self-threading bolts. Now, since we're working up here on a vehicle lift, I'm going to grab our transmission jack, allowing me to get the slider up at a similar height. You can kind of achieve the same thing if you're doing this kind of on the ground or in a driveway using a floor jack or just the help of a friend. Now, before your slider can go all the way into position here on the frame, you will have to remove the one bolt holding the forwardmost parking brake mounting cable bracket from the frame using a 12 millimeter socket. And then you can just let that hang kind of out of the way like that, and our bracket will slip up in place behind it, allowing you to bolt this over the top during your final install. And then in our case, since this vehicle is already equipped with our Victory 4x4 gas tank skid plate, we had to loosen and lower this front driver's side mounting bracket just to allow our rear mounting leg on the slider to slip in between here and the factory frame for installation. After you get the slider lifted up here and you're getting it tight to the frame, there's going to be a couple key things that will help you locate this from front to rear. One of which being this cutout here that is intended to wrap around the factory fuel tank strap. That's going to be your biggest identifying factor, is getting that nested in there. And then another thing to kind of help you identify that you have this in the correct location will be that factory park brake cable location that you just removed earlier. As you're getting close to the correct location, you'll begin seeing some of the factory threaded hole locations lining up, one of which is going to be the forwardmost hole here on the bottom of this rear leg, in which case you can grab a couple of the provided M8 flanged hex head bolts and start threading those into place. This one again is sharing our gas tank mounting bracket location, so if you don't have the gas tank skid, you won't have to worry about overlapping these two. You'll just be threading right into the bottom of this slider leg. You should have a total of 4 factory threaded holes here on this rear leg. So it's going to be this one, the forwardmost hole up here on the side of the frame rail. Next one will be the slotted hole here just behind. Next will be the slotted hole here just behind that fuel tank strap. And then lastly, the one into that factory threaded parking brake cable location, leaving the slot here for that locating tab to line up and lock into. For those 4 bolts, you'll want a 13 millimeter socket. You do, however, want to leave those just a little bit loose still as we move to installing the front mounting leg hardware. In this hole location, you will want to pay close attention because on the passenger side, this will be your threaded hole location. Then up on this front mounting plate, you can install bolts into the 2 forwardmost mounting holes. With the hardware now installed into all of those factory threaded mounting hole locations, you'll want to take a step back. This is the opportunity you have to kind of level this thing up. So using those vertical slots, you can kind of move it using both the front and rear legs, get it nice and parallel to the bottom of the rocker, and then we'll grab our 13 millimeter socket and tighten all of those in place. Having that hardware tightened into place is what's going to help hold and locate the slider while we drill the remaining mounting holes. Now with that hardware tight and the slider located, we'll be drilling holes at each of these rear slotted mounting locations in each leg for a total of 4 per side. So those you'll have to open up to 5/16 to accept those 3/8 self-threading bolts. For that, you'll want to start with a center punch at each hole location. A spring punch like I'm using here is just going to be helpful because it does get a little tight up inside of here as far as drilling and maneuvering tools goes. On that note of tight clearances, you'll also either need to have a right angle drill like I'm using here, or possibly need to mark all those holes with your center punch and then temporarily drop this slider back out of the way to get them drilled and tapped. We're going to want to start with a small pilot bit. So I think I've got an 1/8 inch bit here, and we're going to gradually work our way up in multiple steps to that 5/16 hole size. One additional thing that could help you out up here is a step bit or a unibit, as their short length kind of helps you fit everything in here. These are usually pretty good bits and they're going to drill pretty quickly, so just make sure to use caution here and not. After you get all of your holes opened up to 5/16, you can then grab those 3/8 thread cutting bolts that we provide in the bolt pack. You'll then need a 9/16 socket and some sort of power tool to drive these into place. We're going to use a small 3/8 drive impact here, and then we also have a swivel in with our extension, just so we can get this lined up appropriately. And with that lined up, you can drive it in and cut those new threads. It's always a good idea to finish tightening these up with an end wrench, just so you can get a good feel for those and make sure that you're not going to strip them out or damage the new threads you just put in place. Now that installation process is going to be the same for all the remaining holes. You'll just want to grab these gusset plates before you install the bolts in the top holes here. These are both going to mount to the back side of the tab on each of the legs. And then you'll simply line up the two upper slots and get your self-tapper installed there. The lower end of this bracket is going to be installed with two 3/8 by 1 inch long bolts with washers and then serrated flange nuts on the back side. These are going to be easiest to install from the inside out. With this lower hardware loosely installed, you can come back up to the frame and tighten this, drawing it in, and then come back down and tighten those, all using a 9/16. You'll repeat that same installation process here on the rear gusset, with the only real difference being the parking brake cable routing between the slider mounting leg and the gusset itself. You'll want to pay attention there. If there's any interference between the two, you can come back up and loosen this bolt a little bit on the frame, allowing you to rotate that so you have adequate clearance here, and then simply tighten it back up. With all your hardware tight over here, you can go repeat that same installation process to get your passenger side slider installed before moving on to the logo tread plates if you chose to purchase these. For more information on how these get installed, go ahead and check out the tread plate installation video, but generally speaking, it's just going to be 1/4 inch button head hardware with adhesive rubber pads underneath between these and the slider itself, and then you can get these in place. With your tread plates installed, this installation is complete. Now, if you guys have any questions at all about this install or any other products we offer here at Victory 4x4, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can always send us an email at info@victory4x4.com or give us a call at 269-459-8447.